Beloved saints, today's 5-minute message will be about Enosh, from the genealogy according to the line of Seth from the first book Genesis Genealogies. When we look in Genesis chapter 5 verse 6, Enosh was the grandson of Adam, and Enosh was born to Seth at the age of 105. First, Enosh teaches us that a fallen man is a weak existence. The name Enosh is derived from the Hebrew word of Enosh, which means incurable and very weak. So this name means very frail and weak. The name communicates man's total helplessness and predetermined frailty. Enosh's father Seth recognized that man without seeking God was too frail to overcome the temptations of sin that violently swept over the world. The name Enosh was a confession of faith from the mouth of Seth, who began to call upon the name of God. In Psalms 39 verse 4 it says, "Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is." In Matthew 8:17, Jesus took our illnesses and bore our diseases. Both of these verses show us how frail we are. However, the moment we realize our weaknesses, that is the first step of progress in faith. In the Bible, when we look at Apostle Paul, he had many things. However, the moment that he met with the resurrected Jesus, he realized how frail and weak he was. In Romans 7:24, it says, "Wretched man that I am, who will set me free from the body of this death?" He realized his own weaknesses, and this is his confession. Then the apostle says in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, "God's power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Beloved saints, a fallen man is truly weak, powerless before sin, and easily susceptible to temptation. However, let us realize our own weaknesses. And when we sincerely pray for the power of God, then He will listen to our prayer and answer us. Let us all experience God's amazing work of His miracles. I bless in the name of the Lord. Second, people began to call on the name of the Lord during Enosh's time. In Genesis 4 verse 26 it says, "Seth also had a son, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord." First, this phrase, "call upon the name of the Lord," shows us that during that time, people began to develop a personal relationship with God. Even in human relationships, addressing someone by name rather than by title is typical of closer and more familiar relationships. The Bible connects the significant act of men calling upon the name of the Lord directly to the matter of salvation. In Acts chapter 2:21 and Romans 10 verse 13, both of those verses say, "Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." Little number 2, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. This indicates that formal worship has begun. Before Enosh was born, we see that Cain and Abel offered sacrifices to God. And that is giving worship to God. And this is in Genesis chapter 4, verses 3-4. So we can see that people had begun offering sacrifices long before the Enosh's time. However, the phrase here says, men began to call upon the name of the Lord, which refers to formal worship services of holiness and faith. During this time, people desired to surrender their will in order to fully commit to God's sovereign rule. At the same time, it was a dire cry to God for deliverance from a perversely sinful world. Beloved saints, I pray that today, from this moment on, that we will sincerely call on the name of our God. Let us worship our God in spirit and truth. And when we do so, then God will transform our weaknesses into His power. I bless in the name of the Lord that we will be able to experience God's amazing work of revival in our lives.